I have the chief executive for the Youth Enterprise Support Fund. And
no fund.
Oh, no fund.
Enterprise support.
Youth Enterprise Support, yes. And John Boydo is here.
John Kuma.
John
Today, Roland.
We're arguing about CEO salaries. He's a chief executive too. And he's also a legal practitioner. You still practice?
Yeah.
Will you still practice?
No, I'll stop from
you
May.
Stop for now. But your chambers will be running?
Yes, the chamber is
okay.
running. Yes.
Well, we wish you all the
so,
best.
yes, you can still bring your legal...
Have you fully resumed?
No, I'll resume from May.
May. Why is that?
Well, there's an arrangement for a peaceful transition. And yes, from the office of the Chief of Staff. My office is under the office of the President. And the arrangement allows the outgoing management to be in place until May.
Headed by Helga.
Helga Boadi. To be in place until May when I'll finally take over.
How is Helga doing?
Well,
or you haven't been in touch?
Well, we've met about 2 or 3 weeks ago, so I can't talk of today, but she's fine. I think she's doing well.
All right. So I know that it's early yet, but
yes.
We know the role that support for the youth
yes.
and the youth enterprise support itself had played.
Yes.
It means that you have great dreams for the place.
Exactly. And like you kept adding fund. I think funding is an aspect of the support.
It's because it has a funding aspect.
Yes,
so my mind is
yes. So you are right. There's a funding aspect, and I think they even started with a yes fund. So that is why maybe that aspect is much in your head. But it's supposed to give technical and financial support, and not just that. The youth enterprise support is also to assist youth businesses to grow, and also to help them get the proper links and partners even abroad to expand their businesses. We should be able to answer what is the largest youth business in Ghana. What do they do? What's the I don't even know.
The largest
youth business. What's the largest youth business in Ghana?
It's a derivative of the telecom sector. They sell credits and all that.
Oh, really? Well, I don't really know. I don't have an answer anyway, but the youth enterprise support should be able to identify at least the top 10 youth businesses. How do we assist them? We should be able to identify even the lowest of youth businesses and groom them up to medium, and from the medium to the large scale. And to do all that require a lot of strategy. And of course assistance, both technical, financial, and all that. So that's what we are in to do. And we are also targeting those without jobs, because the youth enterprise support is to help inculcate the idea of entrepreneurship in the youth. Those people have ideas, they don't know how to start. People think that to do business you must have money, which is wrong. To do business you must have vision. You must reduce that vision into a business plan. And that business plan must finance itself. So how do you assist people who have plans of becoming their own business bosses, to reduce their plans into proper business plan and securing funding and all that, and incubating their business until it becomes a big business. So these are some of the things we are going to do to support the youth.
I see.
Yeah.
You seem to be learning so fast. But it's good. Great consultation is important, and we wish you all the best, sir.
Sure, thank you very much.
We'll call on you once in a while, because
all the time.
we're all entrepreneurs in our own rights.
That is what we need to move the nation forward.
We're hoping that when we need the support and we can get the support. The lobbying has begun. But topical this morning, Mr. Kuma, is the subject of the new board chairman of the Ghana COCOBOD. Hatman Usuajima met the president yesterday because the board, the new board that was constituted, was inaugurated. And in his opening remarks, he indicated that there will be some rationalization and the cutting, some emolument or earnings of the top management, because it has to be pegged with those of Article 71 office holders, etc. Of course, I have my own views, but personally, when you're doing interviews, you're supposed to be neutral on any of the issues. Okay, so now, what do you make of the new board coming in, and how it's taken over from the old?
I mean, clearly, it appears the COCOBOD in particular was allowed to ran amok under the NDC government. And no wonder the former CEO finds himself in all kinds of controversies and inquiries and investigations and all these things happening. Because look, even when you talk about Article 71 office holders, they are appointed by the president. How much does the president himself earn? We are talking about 22,000 monthly. So if the president who appointed the CEO is earning 22,000 and you, the CEO, you are earning 70,000, I don't think that your responsibility is bigger than the president or even a minister of trade or a minister of energy or minister, any of these ministers. Their earnings is around what, 15,000. So if one CEO is earning 70,000, how do you justify that? I mean, you can always compensate if there's a peculiar situation why somebody must earn extra. You could always compensate by giving him allowances or certain bonuses to take care of those extra duties. But to say that your basic salary is 70,000 is unjustifiable. How much does one farmer earn in this country in the whole year for one individual CEO? Because without a farmer, there's no CEO for COCOBOD. So I think it's very unfair, and we should look at the situation. We should bring it to the level where you can justify it. And on top of it all, go and look at the roads and the living conditions of the farmers. These monies are supposed to go to improve the welfare of the farmers. My father is a cocoa farmer, and I grew up in a typical cocoa village. You have to walk about 3 miles from Sankore before you, that time there was no even car. You have to walk through the bushes to our village. And I mean, nothing much has changed, maybe except that now they have a motorable road, but it's not even tarred, and weak bridges. And the farmers go through all these difficulties annually to get us the cocoa. And one person sits in Accra and gets 70,000 monthly. We are talking about monthly. And this is apart from the extra allowances he will get. So at the end of the day, cumulatively, he may be earning about 100,000 a month. That's about 1 billion in the old currency. Please, that is grossly unacceptable. And I think that the new board, as the chairman is saying, must seek to rationalize some of this anomaly and make it fair. That I don't think that the CEO of TOR or NPA or BOST or COCOBOD responsibility is bigger than the Minister for Energy. All these sectors are under one. What about the Minister of Finance? How much must he earn? But he's paid just like any ordinary public office holder. So we must have a fair system for all the people who are performing public functions. And then where there is a need to cushion a particular duty because of its maybe technical requirement or extra work you're supposed. Look, in spite of this basic salary we are talking about, he's entitled to a house. Cars, not a car. I'm sure he'll have his 4x4 plus his saloon and maybe even a utility vehicle, depending on where he's going. And then he is entitled to what? So many things. And then you give him that much. For me, it's too much. We cannot continue to run public offices as if they are private entities. If it's a bank and it's a private bank and they want to pay 100,000 a month to their CEO, that's their own cup of tea. But we are looking at public office holders. And like I've stated, there are so many farmers, individual farmers whose 1 acre cocoa farm, half acre, sometimes even 1 plot cocoa farm, that we have gathered all these things and it's bringing these millions of dollars and billions of dollars to us as a country. So you can't take decisions without looking at the welfare of those individuals who have to give their all. And sometimes we have lean season in cocoa farming. During the off season, when cocoa is not there, some of these farmers, to even see 1 cedi in a whole month, they don't see it. They only live on their farm produce. There's no money in the farming sector in the off cocoa season.
And there's a real situation.
Real life situation. You go there, they don't have access to potable water. Their roads are so poor. Some of them have to walk miles to get to the next town. And they have not seen even 10 cedis a day, some of them, until the cocoa season comes. And that's annual. So they see money And when the cocoa season comes, of course, when they carry their cocoa or when they weigh the cocoa, they get money. So maybe for a period of, say, 6 months maximum, or maybe 4 months, they see some good money because government pays for the cocoa they buy. But off-season, they live like paupers, virtually. And all they have is their farms to live on. So we must really have to look at the service conditions of those who are managing the cocoa sector. And I think that they must take the welfare of the farmers into account seriously. That should be priority, number one, over any individual's comfort and so-called.
Okay, so we're arguing like this because it's a public company.
That's exactly what I'm talking about. Okay. We are talking about Article 71 holder, and I'm saying that office are all appointees by the president. If the president himself earns 22,000,
who appoints the chief executive of COCOBOD?
It's the president. Yes, in consultation with maybe the Council of State or the board. I have to look at their act, but ultimately it's the president. And if the president who is appointing you is earning 22,000, are you saying your work is bigger than the president? Any failure that happens at COCOBOD, who will be blamed in this country? At boss, at all, wherever you are looking at. Who takes the ultimate responsibility? So nobody can convince me that the role of a COCOBOD CEO is bigger than a Minister of Finance. How do you justify that? When your sector alone, he has to supervise you. You take all your reports and everything ultimately to the Minister of Finance. And that's just one out of so many other sectors that the Minister of Finance will have to oversight responsibility. And he's earning, say, 15,000. And you, the CEO, you earn 70,000. What kind of responsibility are you performing there? So it's simply not fair. And we have to rationalize that.
If we're saying that we have to rationalize, by what means and at what peg?
Yeah, I think the difficulty is that it is the board. All the institutions that have boards decide the remuneration of their management. And that is where the difficulty is. Because, yes, in spite of the concerns I've just raised, at the end of the day, a board for COCOBOD can decide to give the CEO 100,000. The law allows them to make that decision. So if you have a manipulative board who do, I scratch your back, you scratch my back, and they are not there to properly control the activity of management, then you can have some of these things happening. I don't foresee how a board led by Hackman Usajiman will allow the management to be over-exploiting their position, as we have seen in this report. So the rationalization, as we talk about, much will depend on the board. And it's not just about COCOBOD. All the other institutions with board, their remuneration are always decided by the board. And so we have to have quality members when it comes to the selection of board members. And they are not supposed to be people you can just handpick and control. You understand? So if you have quality board, you are going to have quality decisions to guide the management. I think that's where we have to look at.
So your argument is that they should earn 22,000?
Well, for me, it shouldn't be beyond what the president is earning, because he's the number one. You understand? In public service, the president is number one. No matter your role, and your role is just representing the president.
So why don't we up the president?
Well, that's an option, but what is the objective? That's why we call it public service. The number one priority is not the public servant, but the people we serve. You understand? If you want big money,
we have to be exemplary.
Exactly. There are so many CEOs in private institutions who earn huge incomes in this country, and I don't begrudge them. They may even earn more, and I'll be happy. But what I'm saying is that if you're in public service, and the president keeps saying it, if you want to be a rich man, go into the private sector. But if you want to serve in public, then be content with the public service allowances and salaries that we give you. And that is not much. You understand? It's not a private company. And we cannot run public service as if we are running a public company. The objective is not to make profit.
So if the salary is pruned down to, let's say, 50,000, it's still inadequate. It's still not enough.
Well, you see, the problem is that because there's a precedent, it will be very difficult for the board to actually even halve it. It will be very difficult. But no matter what, it should not be where it is. And any decision that will seek to at least save us some amount of money, we should be happy with it. But as it is now, it's unacceptable.
So we're talking because of the morality of it?
Not the morality, but the responsibility as a public servant. You see, if the CEO alone is earning 100,000, how much is the other directors earning? And you are going to peg the CEO's salary, taking into consideration the other management as well. There are some people. What about the deputy CEO? What about the human resource director? The whatever. So all of them will be earning between 50 and 70,000. So you have to prune it down, save some resources, and make sure you target that at the farmer, at the people who sweat bring the commodity. And there's some investment we have to do to make that sector more profitable. You understand? And even despite all this, we are even hearing about gross mismanagement, awards of contracts that did not go through processes and correct procedure, and sole sourcing arrangements running into billions of dollars. So I don't think anybody can justify what went on at the COCOBOD, and I think that the new board should try and look at the situation.
And we had one quote from the new board chairman. Okay. He says that I saw one of the budgets where the amount of money allocated to cocoa farmers' children, that is for scholarships, I'm sure, amounted to basically 2 million Ghana cedis. And that is easily the total gross salary of the 2 or 3 persons at the top.
You understand? So it will even be more than that. It may even be more than that. You understand? That's 2 million cedis. If you are earning 70,000 as your basic, it means that plus other allowances inclusive, your driver, your cars, your rent allowance and everything, by the time you add all that, it's over 100,000. You understand? And that will be 1.2 million cedis annually. So just 2 people, you're talking about 2.4 million. Only 2 of the top management. And we are talking about maybe 20 or 30 people at the top. And 2 of them are earning 2.4 million cedis. And you give the entire children of farmers in Ghana.
Of cocoa farmers.
Of cocoa farmers, sorry. Well, usually we call it cocoa scholarship, but we know that it goes to almost every year. I benefited when I was in secondary school because my father is a farmer. And I know so many other people who benefit.
You went to free school?
No, I went to a Pocoari school, and you could apply for the COCOBOD.
You had bursary.
I had bursary from yes. COCOBOD will pay your school fees for you if you're a cocoa farmer and you qualify under the scholarship.
I had mates who also had farmers as their
guardians.
Or guardians.
Yes, and
I think some of them
even
guardians,
though their parents were not cocoa farmers, they benefited.
Guardians,
but you see, if we can extend that to say even 10 million cedis.
But that is good. I mean,
that will allow more children, even including those whose children are not farmers. And look, we are now talking about free SHS for children. That's another area we should look at in terms of looking for funding to support the free SHS scheme. Because if students are going to school free of charge in secondary school, and the COCOBOD scholarship was to assist students at the secondary school level, why don't we prune down this SSS in going to management and save about 10 or 20 million cedis and use it to support the free SHS program? So that's another area to look at. And I don't think it is fair to allow all these monies to go to management.
Well, we're coming to a close on this discussion. So we'll hear from the new board chairman, Hackman Osuajiman.
We have our job cut out for us. But we know that with the backing of the president and the brief and the remit that he's given us, we will rise to the occasion. But having said that, we need to appreciate all the points that the president articulated. For example, the cocoa prices are falling from about $3,200 per ton to now around $2,200. we've lost a whopping $1,000 per ton. So on the back of a production of 850,000 tons, we've lost $850 million. That is some of the problems that we have to cope with. Again, the syndicated loan of $1.8 million that we had hoped to use for this production year, unfortunately, Mr. President, is all gone. And we are yet to finish the purchase of the crops. So it falls on us to immediately try and organize some financing to carry on the process. The declining in production exacerbates the situation. Just as farmers are also, the president said, are selling their crop to Galamsey. And smuggling at the borders, also a source of great concern, Mr. President. Huge indebtedness, and I mean huge indebtedness of the sector of the COCOBOD is something that we really have to tackle. Indeed, when you look at it, then the indebtedness or the huge debt overhang of the government itself becomes pales into insignificance. But we have to start do that. Mr. President, we could not agree with you more when you made the point that the cocoa farmers themselves have not been the major beneficiaries of the proceeds from the cocoa. We intend, as a board, to ensure that we are the friends, the advocates for the farmers, the thousands and hundreds of thousands of farmers, and we shall so do, Mr. President, and revert the situation whereby those who produce cocoa will benefit from it. We will rationalize expenditures and establish modus for moving the industry forward. For example, I really believe, we believe as members of the board, that we have to look at all manner of procedures in the board, including making dramatic cuts in the salaries, the wages of the top management. And even, Mr. President, after dramatic cuts, they will be higher than the highest under Article 71 of the Constitution. That is where the sort of situation we are dealing with.
Well, so Hackman also Ajman. And there are wider issues still confronting the cocoa sector. We've not been meeting the various tonnages as far as the expectations are, even across the sub-region, if you have to compare to other countries. And then we needed to make sure we cater for the needs of the farmers adequately for whether we need to service them with input, extension services. And some of those things fell short.
Yes. You see, under President Kufuor, if you look at 2001, the annual tonnage of cocoa was about 350,000 tons. And by the end of 2008, we rose up to 750,000 tons. And then I think by 2011, we hit the 1 million.
By 2011,
we hit the 1 million tonnage, which was the object.
It had been increasingly
going up. And then since that time till now, we have been consistently reducing. Now we are talking of about 700 or 730,000 metric tons, which is far below the capacity that Ghana should produce. If you look at the acreage that we cover with cocoa farms in Ghana, it's even bigger than the acreage that Cote d'Ivoire, country like Cote d'Ivoire, plant. And yet they have about almost 1.8 million metric tons annually because of productivity, high productivity. So we have to look at all these issues and look at how we can expand the cocoa production and, of course, that will mean that we have to have more extension officers. We have to go back to the proper cocoa spraying exercise that was previously introduced, but which we know is no longer functioning properly. And then maybe some of the old trees may have to be replaced with new improved seedlings so that we can increase the amount of production that we get out of the same amount of acreage. When we are able to do that with, of course, the spraying, they call it what, the fertilizers and the weedicides and pesticides that they give to the farmers, you go to the ground and you realize that, on so many occasions we heard that even some DCEs were crossing borders to sell the fertilizers to Cote d'Ivoire and to other countries. You understand? So when these farm inputs don't get to the farmer, how are you going to, achieve an enhanced productivity? So these are some of the concerns that the new board and new management of COCOBOD should look at. And I'm happy they have now targeted 1 million tons next year, which is good. I think they can achieve it if they put in the proper measures, if they can assist the farmer with the fertilizer. Now the cost of fertilizer is so expensive. It used to be about 25 cedis. Now it is about 85 cedis, almost 100 cedis. And the price of the cocoa bag.
But fertilizer is subsidized, is it not?
It's supposed to. You understand? The claim is subsidized. By the farmer, you go there, you can't even have the subsidized.
I've done some bit of work in that area, and I know.
I talk from experience, not from work. I visit my parents every time in the village, and I know that they don't have access to the fertilizers. Share the experiences. Yes, and not only my parents, all those in the villages, they tell me we can't even buy. So at a point, if you want to rely on the subsidized fertilizer, you won't even spray your cocoa farm. So eventually, it is sold on the open market. You have to go there. Instead of paying 85 cedis, they are paying 100 cedis per fertilizer because they can't have the government subsidized fertilizers. So these are some of the difficulties on the ground. They have to, or we as government have to make sure it really gets to the farm. That's why President Kufuor said, I will spray it myself. Get an institution that will spray all farms. Because eventually it is the government who will benefit from an increased yield. So if we are able to do the monitoring properly and ensure that all these things go down to the ground, then obviously we are going to have a better output.
Well, we'll see how that goes. We have stories about John Peter Amewu. He's the Minister for Lands and Natural Resources. Yeah. And his comments mainly have been on the subject of Galamsey. It seemed to have gotten some level of galvanization in the media.
Sure.
Following that, culminating in him meeting the Chinese ambassador and also the mayor of the city where they have a chunk of the Chinese who are in Ghana coming from. And the ultimatum is that they have to stop Galamsey in 3 weeks or compel their nationals to stop Galamsey in 3 weeks. We know we have small-scale mining, but we have Galamsey too.
Sure.
It provides a number of jobs for many people.
Sure. Sure. You see, the issue of Galamsey is becoming threatening to even our survival as a people. Galamsey has contributed to the doomsday that we are having in this country. And I was shocked when I first heard this from a member of parliament. I said, well, Honorable, why are you extending the argument of Galamsey to absurdity? And he broke it down. And I realized that truly, all the tributaries, the smaller rivers that join the Akosombo Dam, that will usually flow into the Akosombo Dam and increase the level of the water, have all been contaminated now. And most of it are drying up they are drying up even in the dry seasons and all that. So it's affecting the amount of water flow into the Akosombo Dam. And once you affect your hydro production, it will actually affect, because it means you have to pay more for thermal. And doomsday and all the problems we are facing partly is as a result of Galamsey. Beyond that, the environment, no reclamation, they just damage the environment, take the gold and run away. And the amount of revenue lost to Ghana runs into billions of dollars. No proper control, when finally this gold is even extracted. It's not even accounted for properly. They only pay the Ghanaian counterparts just how much? Small amount for their labor and their partnership. All the money goes back straight to China. If you remember, sometime last year, during the NDC time, they formed this task force which sought to deport some of these Chinese from Ghana and brought, Galamsey under check. There was a city in China that did demonstration, if you remember. I've forgotten the name of the city. But a whole city organized to demonstrate against the Ghanaian policy to stop Galamsey. That should tell you that whilst we sit here in Ghana, we are financing a whole city in China by our natural mineral resources. And we don't even benefit. So I totally support the minister and I agree with him on the steps he's taking so far. Galamsey is a big issue. But all the time it appears we have relegated the discussion of Galamsey on the background and we are not giving it the needed attention. I want to commend the Honorable Minister Peter Mewu for his efforts so far. I hope that he will sustain the media effort because so far he has brought it to the main media landscape and there's much attention on Galamsey going forward. I think when we are all able to sustain this campaign, we'll be able to redeem some of the losses. Because look, even the plants, some of the Ghana water plants that was treating water for Ghana water sewage, some of them have been closed down because the amount of pollution that they needed to treat have gone out of control and they are no longer able to treat using those plants. So they've closed down, they shut down the plants.
Because it's not financially...
They can't even meet it. The amount of equipment and chemicals they need to treat it. So they've closed down those plants. All these are losses to us as a people. And when these Chinese were arrested, all of them were holding Baltic bottles.
For example, on Tuesday, we had a member of parliament, I think, from one of the areas. Is it the Amansi area?
Amansi area, yes.
Who was saying that it will lead to a loss of jobs for teeming youth in this constituency?
You see, the NPP government has stated it clearly that we are not against gold mining. Government believes that we must extract these mineral resources, but we must do it responsibly. We must do it in the best environmentally friendly atmosphere that we can afford. We cannot say in the name of creating jobs, you destroy all your waters. So if you have job and you have money and you die, what's the point? So we must be able to regularize the process of Galamsey or whatever mining we are undertaking. We are not saying they should go out of job, but we are saying that we must be responsible in the way we extract the mineral. We must protect the water bodies. Look, I have been to some sites.
Some of the Galamsey sites?
Well, small scale. I won't say, well, I've seen so many Galamsey sites, but I'm talking about the responsible small scale mining. I've been to one of them at Osino, and they have a huge processing plant, and they have dug their own wells. Like one thing about the gold is that to maximize the gold, you need clean water, not just water. You need clean water. But unfortunately, they make the water so dirty, they are not even getting the amount of gold they're supposed to get from their mining. So these regularized types have created dams, and they have about 8 dams. This one flows into the other, another flows into another, and it goes and comes back. So by the time the water flows from the process, the dirty water from the processing plant flows into the first dam, very dirty. It flows into the second dam, and then it has stones to take away the dirt. Yep. And by the time it flows, it's filtered. By the time it flows back to the next dam, the water is clean, and it's ready to feed into the processing plant again. And you can do all that with that, and it's not affecting any of the rivers there. Meanwhile, they are extracting gold and doing the mining. So we can have a well-managed system where you can still do your processing and mining and everything through the diamond system without using or touching the rivers and destroying it. But you see, they are in a hurry to make their money and profits and run away.
It's, also because we have people high up there who who make quick bucks as
Obviously,
a result.
there's so much official complicity in this.
So how do we deal with that? Is there a commitment from government?
Exactly. That is exactly the signal the minister is sending and the government is sending. That official complicity in these things will be exposed. And going forward, that is why I think it has gone to as high as the diplomatic level, that whilst we are taking steps on the ground, the minister is also engaging them at the diplomatic level, the ambassador, the whoever, mayor, to inform their citizens that you can't just come to Ghana and in the name of galamsey cause economic, environmental havoc to our people and leave the country. So there will be consequences. And of course, all these things happening, it's a good signal to all those in high places who get involved. Now everybody knows that every eye is watching, and you better don't engage yourself in these things because you'll be exposed.
We'll see how that goes. In the long term, we also need to create jobs. At the same time, too, we can't see our environment being destroyed.
Exactly.
One has to give in. And
well, we can look at a middle point.
We can come to a certain compromise.
Yes, where, like I'm saying.
So it's about the systems and how we regulate and make sure that people use better sustainable means.
Exactly. And if we can have this damming system where before you are licensed, you have to prove that you can create 10 dams, so which will feed into your processing plant, so that as you mine, you use just your damming system to wash your gold.
Like what you saw in
Like what I saw there. And I think it's brilliant. When we're able to repeat that and get them to invest more in these damming processes, I think that will be able to
across the media, it is expected that, and we're moving on to the next subject.
Okay.
The Joe Gatti-led Committee of Parliament, which was mandated by the Speaker to investigate allegations of bribery and impropriety, for which the chairman of the appointment committee, Joe Wise, wanted investigated. Because he thought it impinged on his reputation. He's supposed to come out with his report today. There have been some consistent delays, though. But what will be your expectations?
Well, clearly, this is one of the groundless allegations I ever heard. You know, a whole member of parliament with a legal background make. And I was shocked when I listened to him. I mean, they did very well by showing it on television, that without any shred of evidence, I mean, you can just make such a wild allegations, and when you appeared before the committee, you couldn't even come with any substantiated facts, except to say that, well, I heard that somebody said. I mean, it's kind of all hearsay, hearsay, hearsay throughout. And for me, it is very embarrassing to our parliament and to the individual who made those claims. We all wait for the outcome of the findings, but I mean, this is not rocket science. We all watched it, and we saw that there was no evidence. So clearly, it's going to be thrown away. And I think maybe after that there should be consequences. Individuals cannot just be allowed to malign a whole institution like Parliament without any basis. You understand? And as it has even turned out from their sittings, we have all got to know that parliamentarians are not paid in cash or on tabletop. You have to go and pick the money from the cash office and sign. And usually you sign either as your sitting allowance or whatever reason why you are taking the money will be stated on the forms that you are signing. So how did he take money from the minority whip without knowing the reason for the money? So, I mean, I think it's a conspiracy gone bad. And whilst we await the outcome of the committee sittings, I hope that such a thing should not be allowed again in a respectable institution.
And talking about that, then my next question is, it then questions the whole institution of Parliament, because we consistently, perhaps in the life of each Parliament, at least
here,
yes, tend to have these speculations all around. In other jurisdictions, even for £7,000, people have lost their seats, except in the UK.
Yes, but of course, this is Ghana. And you see, the difference in UK and Ghana is that in the UK allegations, they were backed by evidence and documentary proof. that you took X amount for this purpose, which it turned out not to be so. But here, people just run to the media to make allegations. And look at where the source of the allegation came from, Radio Gold. I mean, everybody knows that Radio Gold is an extension of NDC, of course, in the media. When it comes to where the position of Radio Gold, everybody knows.
That
I mean, it's not peculiar to Ghana. All over, when you talk about Sky abroad, Sky News in the US, everybody knows where they stand. If you talk about CNN or BBC, everybody knows where they stand. So it's normal to have media with certain inclinations to align to a political party or a political ideology. But what I'm saying is that if you have members of parliament making wild allegations without substantiating them, it is troubling. What is a fact is that anytime an agency or an institution want to sponsor a bill in parliament, usually they pay some monies, especially sitting allowances for committee members and financing their operations and all that. That one, I think, is even done officially in parliament. They support parliament in its duties in terms of funding to get the job done. So that is not news for me. But
that's not the case here.
That's not what we are talking about here. That's not what we are talking about here. So to come and make wild, I don't know if it is the same thing that people mistake it to be bribery. But if you come and say that you have been bribed to vote in a particular line, and you are asked to prove with evidence, I mean, there are 270 members of parliament, and you have how many? Only one person making the allegation, supported by two others. Even when you come to the minority alone, they are 106, or I may get it wrong, but they are 106 or 107. So how come only 3 of them are making allegations? And when it comes to parliament, we have leadership, whether in the majority or the minority, they have leadership. Assuming the government attempted to bribe the entire minority group, why is it that their leadership are not the people complaining, but only 3 people who we are told were against the leaders right from their elections? So this whole thing could be a conspiracy to achieve an internal politics within the minority group. and I don't think it is fair what they have done to the minister.
We have to wrap up our discussions, but there's a story I wanted us to take a look at quickly. It's about Tony Blair, the former Prime Minister of the UK, visiting us. And
one of my favorite Prime Ministers.
Okay, at the time, yes. I remember he worked closely. He went to even a cocoa farm with the former President John Kufuor, I remember.
Yes.
He's saying that he will bring his experience to bear on the Kufuor-led government. How, following the election of President Kufuor, how do you think the international community views him and views his government and his ability to lead Ghana?
Yes. You see, in life...
I know you're a member of the MPP, so I don't know whether he's a very...
And a member of the government.
And
so
yes, and I don't know whether you can answer it...
well, fairly.
Objectively, so to speak.
I don't... Even the viewers already have the answers, that if you have, international stalwarts in the person of Prime Minister Tony Blair visiting your president, you see, not your president visiting, but he visiting your president within 3 months of his assumption of office, you understand? It should tell you the level of international credibility that the president has. And it should also tell you that going forward, Ghana stands to gain a lot because it is respected in the international body politics because of our leader. And I think all these things will go a long way to help Ghana in the path that we have chosen in our development. The international community is expressing confidence that they believe that Nana Akufo-Addo can fix the country. And so far, he has demonstrated his ability to fix it. And I believe that a year by now or 2 years from today, we will all begin to see the dividends. I mean, even in 3 months, look at how the economic direction is going. We are beginning to see cuts in the prime rate. We are beginning to see inflation coming down. The cedi is gradually gaining stability. And even fuel prices have started going down due to government policy and all that. So we are beginning to see reverse in the difficult economic trends to stability. And I think very soon there will be takeoff, and Ghanaians will begin to see that, look, we have made a good decision by changing the government. And so far, I think his direction and his signal on where Ghana is going has been very clear. And so far, it has been very good. You see, people have ideas. What they need is leadership. And that is what Nana Addo is providing. Clear direction on where Ghana must be, what we must do. I mean, even in the front of education, Nana Addo believes that there must be equity with our natural resources. So if Ghana has found oil in commercial quantities, he doesn't care if 100% of all the oil resources is used to educate Ghanaian children freely. That will, for him, will ensure equity. Whether you are a child of a rich man or poor man, you have free access to education. And I think these things are very critical for our national development, because in the next decade or two, you are going to have more Ghanaian children educated than before, because everybody is going to have access to free quality education in this country. And for me, it is fantastic. The direction on economic governance is clear, where he wants to go, how he wants to cut taxation and do productivity to and develop the economy through production instead of taxation. He's going to raise more revenue. And today I'm told that startups are going to enjoy free tax for 1 year so that they can have access to more financial resources to grow their businesses. That's what you need. You free the private sector, and they have money to do business and engage the youth and create more jobs. When you do that, you are building the economy. And that's what Nana Addo is doing. And so far, it's been fantastic. And I think the international community is also there to encourage him.
And Tony Blair said he's come at a time when there seem to be great expectations on his shoulders.
Exactly. In fact, Ghanaians are very hopeful. If you look at the voting trend, I mean, there was overwhelming endorsement in Nana Addo. And I think that so far he is not letting them down. All the major promises that he made in his campaign, it appears about 70 to 80% of his major campaign promises are being fulfilled, even in the first year of government. And I think that he's doing very well. I trust that by the time the 4-year mandate is due, Ghanaians will applaud his leadership.
Youth Enterprise Support, that's
yes.
where you're CEO.
Yes.
And we know that, but some young people have been involved in vigilantism, especially affiliated to political parties, and those affiliated to your political party have come up strongly.
Yes, of course.
We're talking about a recent attack on, is he a security coordinator for the Ashanti region?
Yes.
Which had led to widespread criticism of the actions of the vigilante groups affiliated to the political parties, especially your party.
You see, in every democracy, we are likely to have excesses of various groups who overreact to decisions of government. This is not peculiar to an MPP government or an NDC government. It's happening now in the US. When Donald Trump got elected, a country with over 200 years experience as democracy, what happened? You have people violently demonstrating. Even today, his own party people are still in disagreement with his decisions. They had to force his healthcare policy and withdraw from Congress last week. So these things will happen going forward, but we have to manage it. What is important is that the police are in charge. They have arrested those people. I've heard that they've come out to apologize to the president, and they have committed to be disciplined. They have committed to discipline going forward. I think that much of this frustration is coming from joblessness.
You mean they are jobless as a result?
I think so. And there's high expectation for jobs placements. And I strongly believe that our government will give ears to their concerns by looking at how we can create opportunities for them. I believe the devil finds jobs for the idle hands. When we engage them economically and profitably, some of these excesses will cease. But we regret whatever happened, and they themselves have apologized. And I think going forward, we are not going to see those things.
We have the leader of the pro-vigilante group, Invisible Forces, saying that efforts to disband politically or political party security units, such as the ones they have, Invisible Forces and is it Delta Security, will... Well, so we bring you an insight from the gentleman.
nka sako shiwe din ka yin pay for nan ka so mu ka bibi fa ho ababi ba o de mrana e hyerin nsam me kasa amagana min kasa ma party bia mrana o de hyerin nsam no police force.
This question should be put to our leaders. Governments in power always use the police to their undue advantage. This forces the opposition to form vigilante groups. If we are to speak the truth, I agree these groups should be disbanded. If we know, for instance, elections will be transparent, what is the need to protect a ballot box? If all political parties come together and leave everything to the police, it can help, but such agreements will not work.
Sankasa party for the Ebeke boom. Niakasi ko tuaba. Police ni na wotu mi by any adwuma. Enti group no emu twa be den.
And that's Nana Agyemang commenting on a number of issues involving his group, Invisible Forces. We're told that he's the leader. So now the call is that they should be disbanded.
Well, I mean, I don't think we should overreact.
We're overreacting?
Oh, I think so. We are overreacting. And the point is that these are very supportive groups when it came to
when they
campaign.
go on rampage and run amok?
Oh, I mean, you cannot take one incident to describe a group which has existed over years. You understand? That is not their stock in trade. Of course, there will always be excesses one time or the other, but that is not how they have been all this while. During the campaigning, we know how they assisted. I mean, every political party has
well, the police said that they were on hand to give you security.
Internal security when it comes to crowd control and managing.
So why is it that you don't straight away go to the police and you decide to use an array of young men?
The police allocated 4 policemen to every political party.
But perhaps you didn't, as
campaign.
political parties, you didn't advocate enough.
Well, but that is what we had. And if you look at the numbers meeting your flag bearer and your political leaders, how can 4 policemen control over 10,000 people? So every party have their own internal security arrangement to help with crowd control and all that. But I think going forward, we should, I mean, they also have their own expectations and concerns. And I believe that our government will listen to them and do what they also are in expectations for. I think they deserve it. We have to listen to them and address their concerns. But as for disbanding them, you may disband them when you're in government, but when you go back to opposition, you need them. So why don't you help them? I mean, most of them want jobs, and they think they can do well in the security services. And we are recruiting as a government, so why not?
So it means that you're going to...
they are also Ghanaians, yes. They are entitled to recruitment, so why not? We should recruit them.
You are going to put rebels inside the security.
Oh, why do you label them as rebels? Please, we are not there yet. I mean, the fact that your child became stubborn and you discipline him doesn't mean that he's no more your child. I mean, once they have gone overboard and apologized, they are normal people, they are party supporters, they are Ghanaians who are disciplined, but we all, one way or the other, sometimes overreact, and I don't think we should take one particular incident.
John, aren't you being too diplomatic about this?
No.
Why aren't you calling a spade a spade?
But what I don't see the difficulty in I mean, demonstrations are always part of the democratic rights, except that they went overboard, and they themselves have admitted and apologized. But I'm saying that what triggered the demonstration? There's a reason. Let's address that concerns for them, and once we do that, there will be no need, because these things are not new. You know, under the NDC, you had NDC vigilante groups going to attack DCs, and sometimes they even bent tender documents because they said they were not happy how particular contracts were being awarded. These things happen, but you have to always manage the expectations of your followers when you get power, because it is dangerous to neglect those who pushed you there. They have a reason, they have concerns, we must address and listen to them.
John Kuma, he's a legal practitioner, but also the newly appointed Chief Executive Officer for the Youth Enterprise Support. And we wish you all the best, sir.
Thank you, man.
I know that we'll be having great discussion. And when you fully assume, when we invite you, you have the time. Please
definitely. We always have time to serve.
All right. But let's move on to some other things. And just so only this weekend, President Akufo-Addo had an advice to all of us. It was at an international conference on entrepreneurship and business development that though prayers and miracles were good, hard work guaranteed success. And that advice probably hasn't quite gotten down to many Christians who prefer to chase after prophecies and miracles during working weeks than working or get working a trade or put in some hours at work. And Joy News Maxwell Agbagba has been out trying to understand what it is that keeps many Christians in church well after their regular Sunday services. And we know, John Kuma, today is the President's birthday too.
Let me take the opportunity to wish His Excellency the President a happy birthday. He's 73 years today. We wish him all the best. May God bless him and keep him and give him long life and good health so that he can achieve his vision for Ghana.
I like the president for one thing. That's all that he is. He never gave up his dream of becoming president.
That's it.
That talks about perseverance.